Okay, we start. We start? Yes, okay. Good morning. This is the second day and second session. After going through a bit of the history of the transformation of the network and how it transformed its member and consequently also members transforming the network, we wanted to give a very short introduction into the specific tools and mechanisms we developed to self-organize and self-manage our common resources and the network. And then we wanted to open the floor and discuss, give space to everyone that wants to share resonances or even more questions if they didn't ask yesterday, and especially the ones that didn't speak yesterday. We will ask you, if you don't want to talk at all, it's okay, but we especially invite the ones that didn't talk at all yesterday to speak. And yes, we want to do an exercise to see what of what we have been sharing can be useful or interesting to you, and also we want to hear from you about the conditions, because as time passes, because we didn't know all the context and conditions that surround your work and practice in both in Serbia but also the wider region. I think there's also differences in different countries. So we want to hear from you, and hopefully also to talk all together. That's it? Yes? Yeah. Okay. Now, the back in storytelling, how do I do that? Okay. So the very briefly, no, wait. It was working. You go upstairs, okay. You want to go to the tools? Yeah. Yes. So this is not only to translate ourselves. This I can share with you also the slides later. But these descriptions or elaborations on the words are also an agreement of what we mean when we use specific words. But also they imply also certain agreements that are let's say enacted through specific guidelines and rules we have come up with each other, because we are many, and also at the formation of this phase of the network, there was also a significant amount of money, so there was care and a lot of time. This took 3 years to set up, to agree how to manage. So along the way, as they were studying which kind of form the organization will take, where would it be established, which is the best tax conditions for having a NGO, etc. We had a study group on this, along with a fundraising working group, while we had to also establish the collective pot, which is not only our budget or the way we distribute finances, but also how we contribute time and knowledge and everything that can be a resource from the network, space, etc. So the collective pot was accompanied by, first of all, us letting go on doing traditional reporting. So each organization wrote down these lifelines. We call them lifelines because we are against deadlines. So again, going back to administrative violence. So we came up with this word, and this is where radical imagination comes again. Anyway, so we started using all these other words to also with the hope that they can manifest. Of course, we are always struggling with deadlines, but we came up with these lifelines that were our 4-year plans for the organization, both for the individual organization, but also in relation to the network. And that was our application, let's say, to access the resources. And this was the only thing needed to be active in the network at that moment. And of course, at the end, there was the very basic fiscal accounting of, okay, we received the money, we spent it, blah, blah. No detailed reporting, in a sense that what Aline was describing yesterday, coming up with speculative numbers of, okay, we did these activities, we had this many children in the workshops, blah, blah. So that was very crucial. So it wasn't just, we open a bank account. We also let go of all this bureaucratic reporting, accounting, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, we called for people in the assembly, because we kept meeting annually, to join the network as coordinators, the Yala Yala team. And this team is a caretaking team that is not there to define the direction, but is there to make sure that the bookkeeping is done. It's purely administrative. And by definition, when they give you directives, like I don't remember the name. Like their domain of responsibility was not to have an opinion. They were all members of, like they were workers of one member of members or organizations. They were not people outside of the network. They all worked for organizations, but they were there to just make sure that the facilitation happens, the meetings happen. So, yes, they were not setting the agenda. They were helping to facilitate the agendas. So we didn't give the responsibility to these people to run the network. They were there to help organize. And still there was expectation from everyone to contribute and set the agenda and participate and organize. But because of the scale of it, we needed 4 people to safeguard the time in between us. Is really like the way they're named is very smart in a sense. Of calling it, also they had other roles as well, like checking in with the one working on mechanisms for the function of the network, for the organizational aspect. And then we had an explosion of art practices through collaborative projects and through institutional residencies and other manifestations. People did festivals together, on different levels, regional, also not regional, not across geography. So this was ongoing, in parallel. And at that moment, each organization was receiving an amount for their own, let's say, sustainability and infrastructure and well-being. And also, we were all entitled to a specific amount to have projects with others. So the agreement was not that we will just put X amount and everyone can share together, but we even allocated in a distribution equally, not equitably. Each one got the same amount of money. It was 25,000 per year that we could spend with others doing these projects or residencies. And then we came up with specific rules of how to access this amount of money. So we had to always have 3, a triangle. And with 3 you could go. Of course, there were projects that were more than 3 members. And then there was consideration also of the budget, if they needed more money, etc. So we had basic agreements for the minimum, let's say, ways of doing things. And then also there was allocation for assembly. So we put money away each year to meet each other, which is one of the biggest costs, because we decided to meet each other, so to get to know also their ecosystems and context. So once a year we would visit another member that would host us for 10 days. So it was also an intense, from day to night camp, let's say. And the assembly was not only to visit each other's ecosystems and artist studios, etc., but to also intensively work on like fine-tuning and continuing working on tools for the network. So there was some time allocated for, yes, kind of engaging with the ecosystem of each member, but mostly it was an inner working thing. And each member could send one or maximum two people representing the organization. And we all met in various places. We held, since 2013, we held up until 1995, yes, and then we have held 7 assemblies over the 10 years, because we also have COVID, etc., and we also met in the framework of Documenta in Germany. And the assembly is the only deciding space. So anything that concerns the whole network needs to be decided by everyone agreeing. So there was also an agreement that if there is skepticism, or if someone is concerned about something, like we would park this decision, and we wouldn't do it with majority decision making, but we will keep discussing it to find like something that everyone can agree and compromise on, which of course slowed down this whole process even more, obviously, if you understand. But that was very important, because then everyone felt entitled to participate in the decision making on equal terms. And it might not have moved the network faster, but it built stronger foundation of trust and of the way we feel all members of the same collective pot, let's say. But it was not, the decision making didn't have to do with money necessarily, or how to allocate the funding, but also all these other forms of organizing and, how to say this? Yeah, being in relation to each other. It sounds a bit abstract, but it was, I think it was very critical that they kept this kind of, it looks utopian when you read it, but like all this analysis on, like, where was the dissensus part? That, no, also here, I mean, like when there was disagreement, because of course we don't, it was very hard to agree on several things. We didn't just lobby each other, like to convince each other. There was extended, it was basically the solution usually was that, okay, this is parked in the assembly, and we need to discuss it over the year until the next assembly to find solution. And of course, we need to keep in mind that this is happening with like a very full collective pot. So there is a luxurious position to discuss all these things, just as a reality check.
Facilitator, you can say, but there's always. Yeah, like also it's, I think, important to say that each of these discussions are always facilitated. So there's always someone that, I mean, is just in charge of facilitating the conversation, so it's not, they are not pushing their own opinions into the conversation. So this is also to prioritize care-oriented forms of conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is another thing. So in all the formations, the working groups, the collaborative projects, all our meetings in the assembly are hosted by appointed people that take the role of facilitation. We have been training each other in the network. Some already had this practice, and then we also invested in others to further learn this practice of facilitating. So we, yeah, with certain formation, one of them was the art of hosting. It's a group of facilitators and trainers, coaches. But there were several attempts to create the conditions of having meetings where, like, there is allocated role of participating, of facilitating, of timekeeping. Someone keeps the time, so we keep the intention of the agenda points and the discussion. And we also have extensive harvesting practice where nothing happens without being documented. So we are harvesting with intention, be it directly note-taking, recording everything, and visualizing it. There are many ways, because also we have artists, we have different people that relate to harvesting in a different way. So we have a huge archive of, like, we have a metadata from all these meetings over the years, of online and in person, where we have documented all the interactions to every detail, where we also, at the end, even if we don't document like word to word, there is action list or intentions that, okay, we have agreed to do this and this after this meeting, blah, blah, blah. And this is very important because we understand that not everyone can participate fully all the time. So, and in the same ways, and there are language barriers as well if we are using English, for example. So we need to keep everyone, it's a matter of accountability and transparency. So there is a drive where everyone has access and can see in real time what is happening in each working group, in each process. Even YALAs themselves, the coordinators, have, we document everything, and everyone can access all our inner administration work all the time. And beyond our emails and, look at the budget, this is the updated version, the drive is shared, but like we have like 150 people accessing it. And who looks at it, who has the accessibility, or who remembers to find, because we need to refresh all the time, because also new people join the organizations, blah, 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 is another thing. But technically, they're all accessible to everyone in the network. This is important. And I don't know if am I forgetting something important about the tools? And the tool itself as a concept is also kind of principle of commoning and commoning, is that since we have been investing all this money and resources and time and entanglements amongst ourselves to exchange, to develop these mechanisms, to think about all these things, about funding paradigm shift, tooling comes after, is how you externalize this, how you share with others that can also find it useful. So we have also an extensive, let's say, toolbox where it needs always, we keep building of things that can be shared with the outside world and can be useful to other organizations or, yes, types of organizing.
I think maybe it's also because there were questions about it yesterday that everyone's participating in the network. It's non-paid positions. I have been there for many, many years, and Marianna as well. So each one of the members of the organizations are involved, actively working. We have several meetings, even per week sometimes, and assemblies. So none of these are paid positions. We are all there just because we believe that this, it's in its transformational power, I would say. And there's only YALAs who have paid position, and this is also a rotative position, and it's collectively decided by members of the network.
Yes, so the YALAs either propose themselves to become YALAs, each assembly we change, or someone from the network can propose, this person can be. And then we need to all agree, let's say, if someone blocks, it doesn't happen. And maybe just for the participation part, because you were asking us, and I was saying, I was working for Casco, an organization that has a salary structure, but Aline is a member of another collective that doesn't have salary structure. They work differently. So within the network, we also have the participation of the people is not based on salary or being a collective. So because we have like some collectives that don't have salary structure or have different economies. So Yes, yes, but we never came up with like a universal basic income or a participation fee, because we were also, in a sense, practically operating with organizations receiving money to be part of the network with the core funding as well. But that wasn't enough anyway to pay for the actual contribution of the people and the energy and the resource they were putting in. So it is not necessarily like something you can calculate and say, okay, when they had money, they participated. It's not true, because now that there is no money for core funding, people participate in the same ways without the with the loss of this funding. Let's say.
And participation is also connected to your own interests. So there are several working groups, and for many of us, I guess, it's either connected to the organization or your own research processes. So if you're working on governance, it's because most likely you are interested in horizontal ways of organizing and collective decision-making processes. The same goes for abundance. AC school, because you're interested in pedagogic experiments. So it's not that you are forced into one working group, but there's voluntary participation, and you can join. And because of this harvest, you can also there's all of these processes, documentation for you to catch up. And usually also, as you enter a group, people are taking the time to welcome you and orient you through what has been happening. Yeah. So this also slows down the process, which is not a bad thing in itself.
Yes, but this has been yes, it's a bit it's a challenge, because then if they when people join along the way, then you have to restart or catch them up. But we usually also do it on one-on-one. We ask someone, can you give, but then that's also extra time for someone to tell you, in the past 3 months we have been doing this. Because of course all these harvests sometimes need mediation. You don't you need to see how it was happening, how people experienced it. Yes, I think we should leave it at this and open the floor to map out yes. Yeah, also, it's not only about similarities and differences, but also, yes, maybe the future. I don't know.
Well, we're here to have a conversation.
Yes.
So you're also undergoing your own processes. Well, we have been talking to some. We haven't been necessarily talking to everyone. So it would be nice, just to hear how it resonated, what resonated. Also hear about your own experiences. Not everyone is part of ULUS, from what we have come to understand. So it can also be how you organize within other structures. And just any questions you may have.
So it would, yesterday you showed it very shortly, but it would also be for me interesting to see this digital drive that you showed yesterday, and all these different functions. It doesn't have to be now, but at one point.
We can just show it now.
Yeah, I can, yes. Yes.
So this is the harvesting from the last assembly we had in 2023 in the Netherlands. We always produce these kind of documents which are already processed from the harvest with everything that happened. And this is also shared with the whole network, so members that were not able to be there can also be part of the conversation. There were some years that didn't because of COVID, as Marianna mentioned. So the last one happened in the Netherlands. And then out of all the conversations and everything that happens, this is also a way to share with the rest. So there's a whole group created after assembly that is in charge of processing, because we have massive amounts of harvest from all the hours that we're working on. So they are in charge of processing and kind of narrativizing the harvest, so to ensure that people can really access the the conversations. 10 days. It's yeah, usually 10 days without counting arrival and departure. And yes, and then it's very long days. So we start, I mean, the Netherlands was lighter because the genocide was happening, so everyone we were moving slowly. But usually you would start 9 and then sometimes end up at 10 o'clock in the night. So it's really commitment, and organizations also prepare in advance. So there's a working group created expressively for assembly, and you're kind of like the agenda for the assembly is decided collectively, and it's kind of worked within this working group, but then there's also plenaries where all of the ideas are shared with the rest of the members, and then the members would give input into other things that they believe are important to be tackled in assembly. So there's really all of these different process, working groups, methods of assembling, smaller and bigger ones, are there to ensure that everyone feels that they can contribute and participate and have a say, a saying in what happens. So it's long-term processes.
Usually, how many people from the other organization join?
There's 2 people. There's 2 people are pay, because the Arts Collaboratory also pays, or this is how we have been doing it. So you pay for accommodation, you pay for travel costs, you pay for per diems, etc. And there's a maximum amount of 2 people that can attend for each organization. And then in addition to this, but there's also the invitation for self-limitation. So it doesn't mean that these spots need to be filled necessarily. There's always also a conversation within organizations, how many people it makes sense, connected to the processes, to your own participation in the network. And then there's also the JALAS working group, which are kind of additional to that. And then there's also often, if you're part of the assembly working group, there's also a chance that you can join. So it's not fixed number, it's always also work. So we work really like case-based each time.
So it's around 70 people?
Yeah, how many people were there last time, Marianna?
In the assembly?
Yes, I cannot remember.
Yes, we were, without the people based in the Netherlands that also joined from our ecosystem, we were 65.
Yeah, and then there were also Lumbung members there, many of which are based in the Netherlands or around, in Germany and so on, so these people also joined. So it's big groups, so the agenda needs to be defined in advance, and there's really like 9 to 10, 10 to 11 really detailed, because otherwise it doesn't work out.
This is your harvest, no?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, is this working?
Yes.
But also if someone else doesn't want to say something. I mean, well, you explained lots of tools, your methodology, and it's super interesting. It comes, definitely we can recognize lots of grassroots movements, like activist practices, especially when you talk about this dissensus, like not voting, but taking the, prolonging the discussion until all the group, for example, takes the same opinion and so on, this facilitating, moderating, and all these processes, and it's definitely useful for the small organizations, and for the lots of people could be interesting here who are trying to do some start some small processes, or for the organizations that are self-built, how to say, that are trying to self-organize self-organize from the grassroots and so on. The context here, and we are like a bit missing the like standing positions here. We are missing the context in order to like think about like this. So that's why it seems to me that we also can't engage really in this conversation, because like this initiated as a project of Association of Artists of Serbia, which has lots of constraints, lots of like rules and limits, like in how like a very defined structure, which in a way is also very limiting for like for ongoing developing these kind of processes, which we as individuals, artists and activists are like have experience of this and we're knowledgeable of, and had this in our practices, or I don't know, developed in our smaller collectives, like I don't know, lots of us probably who are in this association, who found ourselves in this association and tried, understood it as a tool, but like taking it, like making a conscious decision to enter this kind of structure in order to like try to make intervention from the institution on some other level, like to work, you know, and try to like make an intervention in the institutional field. So like it was. And so this is, and then we here are not ULUS definitely. It's just part of, you know, like 7 of us, or maybe, you know, ULUS, when we have an assembly, there has to be minimum 120 people, like for making decisions, and it has like, it's very, and this is like the structure of the, like a membership, are not the people who are gathered by affinity, just by the fact that they have their professional, they work in the sphere of visual arts. So this is professional association, and like trying to politicize it, or like you know, like just get like a minimum of the common ground is a long process. That had to be done. I don't know, like we had some introduced, tested, lots of these like big open meetings, assemblies, working groups, like coordinators, meetings, reportings, these bulletins, like try to like Solidarity Fund, lots of like open a library didn't work. I mean, there is lots of potentials to develop this, but there is also like, lots of obstacles, and so on. And the thing, and now we are like not an ULUS. Okay, we are here like not representing really ULUS at the moment. This is ULUS project, and we are here also inviting people from the different places of Serbia in order, with an aim to try to think of like building a visual artists cooperative which should improve the economic status of artists. This was initially the project which had a main aim to be directed to the whole of the ULUS membership. Which is, and at the moment we have this situation, it's not communicating to the ULUS membership. We are not addressing this to them because there was no open call, for example. I don't know, I mean, you know, like I just want to like say things which we have to have in mind when we are opening a discussion, from which like how each of us and everybody is taking part in its discussion when we are talking, and like imagining how we could work together on some common aims.
I don't think I can contribute much to many of the things you said. I mean, we've been listening, actively listening throughout the last days. But something that just came to my mind beyond AC is that at CASCO we have also been currently trying to rethink the institution, the program of the institution. And so, as opposed to AC, where we all come, there's a big affinity, or a very clear affinity amongst many of the organizations connected to anti-colonialism, to just social justice, etc. So it's much more clear, I guess, why we're there and what we're doing there. The same goes for Lumbung, but in the case of Casco, it's different because you have so many people doing so many different things. Casco, just as a reminder, is where we work, because we have been talking about many organizations. It's where Marianna and I, our main platform of organizing right now. We work on relations, that's what we say. And so there's a big ecosystem organizing around Casco, and this ecosystem is really looking at so many different things, like land experiments, also looking at solidarity projects, students that are also just coming to the Netherlands and are just starting to experiment, and many of them may not even necessarily have like a similar understanding to us on what artistic practices should be for. So we've been really practicing in the last 15 years, but now I think moving, in the last year, it has become like main point of agenda, trying to understand how we can tackle or address all of these ecosystem needs, desires, struggles even, and trying to conceive a mapping mechanism, because we cannot bring everyone under the same agenda, right? Like maybe Casco's agenda is very clearly defined in many ways, but then that also, for us, it's also very important to be close to the students. And that means also understanding how to relate in difference. So something we have been doing is just trying to come up with what kind of mechanism would be needed, in the sense, or how this would translate, is that we also make sure that there's room and space to address all of these very different needs, desires, and struggles in a way that is careful and that is attentive and that is generative. So I bring this up because all of you are really coming from so many different contexts and practicing in different ways. So it's not that all of you have the same agenda.
Alex, I just want to say, ULUS, this Association of Fine Artists, it has a representative status of, on a national level. It's, so it's kind of guild, like it's like a Guildian institution also, but it has a representative status. So it could represent the artists, professionals, like visual artists professionals, and so, and for it, and it accumulates not, we can't say we are rich economically as an association, but it has like a symbolic capital, which is like a big flow of money, like that just passes through. So like for the big projects, it's very convenient, to apply for the big projects with this on the basis of this, with this association. It has a vast membership, 2,700. So like for if everything looks from outside that is functioning well, the advocacy, of the association could be easily goes to the media, like everything that is happening, what we say or whatever. It's very, could be very visible. And it has its historic legacy, which all gives it lots of credibility, to apply for the, to use it, or misuse it, in certain ways. So we have to be sure always, like all the people who are actively involved in governing of ULUS, that it's, that everything that is done is going to be used for the common interests. Because, and we, during these 5 years, really built lots of, voluntary work was introduced, and, that lots of things, I don't know, these researches, we conducted researches in the art field that were not we were missing data, we produced materials, lots of like documents, proposals for changing the laws, like advocacy, I don't know, like mechanism structures and so on, which like very easily now at this point could be just vanished and destroyed. You know, it's so, and I don't know, like I would just would like to bring this question back now in the sense how like this project pays back to ULUS, what it means for the association that it relates on.
The project, meaning the
this
formation of the
we are
network.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean destroyed?
I mean, I didn't. How you asked me? How did I mean destroyed?
I also was wondering, do you mean it on a symbolic level or on a technical level? Because for the technical level, I propose, and always propose this, to archive important public materials to archive.org. This is a nice community archiving project where your resources are then kept forever until the association exists. And this is really useful for this urgency of keeping the links and like to fight the link rot that can happen with changing maybe the governance of a structure, or changing the technical structure of your website, for example, and stuff like that. If you meant technically archive.org, it's really
yeah,
nice.
I know, but of course it's it's not about this, but it's like really lots of work documents, like processes that are open then, or I don't know, like. We know, like for example, there are the Jelena and Katarina, the secretaries, because we were all our structure is changing, and we also had a rotational system as a principle and so on. So people are changing. This is the idea, but we have like people that are employed, Jelena and Katarina, and they're staying, for example. And we, but in the recent past, it was just very difficult to maintain these people who are employed, and they're very important because they stay. But like every time you have to put lots of effort and lots of work, it's just huge organization, you know, like with lots of ongoing works, and to like introduce we have, I don't know, like 10 drives with lots of materials, working groups, lots of produced material, and so on, like the structures, ways of doing. It's impossible to, like, if there is a discontinuity, and this is what happened to us, for example, in 2020, that like lots of all the structure was just vanished, and we were in a situation to rebuild everything from the scratch, and then just like enter the depot, or I don't know, like that was in the chaos, and like start like cleaning and reordering and so on. So it's, I don't know, like it's in this sense I thought like destroyed, like so it could happen that someone will come, we don't know who, and then just will not be able to. I mean, I don't want to speak so long. Sorry, I could continue, but it's not the question of passing over. Okay, I will of course. For, I don't know, or my colleagues who were like taking some responsibilities of the certain tasks. I don't know, like I was I introduced this system for making the finances, for example. So I will introduce. It will take time, but someone has to learn to use Excel. I mean, has to learn to like make formulas to. It's these systems are complicated, you know, like to take over. It's not on a button.
Well,
I wanted to ask, first of all, I mean, regarding the terminologies or the words that you invented, I think generally they're not that different from the cooperative principles that are generally used by. But I think that, of course, each cooperative or each organization, doesn't matter, using these principles has to define for itself what do they mean. I mean, you cannot just copy-paste them and just think that everybody understands. That's actually what they did in the Serbian law, and that's why it's so bad. This is kind of a really interesting process. And to Wahida's question, what does this project, for me, for instance, now we had 20 minutes example of how ULUS Skupština, ULUS Assembly should look like.
Yeah, 10 days.
Yes, exactly. You don't know that. You never offered it. Okay. I don't want to talk anymore because, please, Vaida, continue.
Maybe because I don't know if you're aware that you are both taking a lot of space here. Maybe we need to leave space for the others to talk. Yes.
Sorry. Does someone else want to say something? No?
But you will remember what you want.
Yeah, I wrote it down. So. Sorry.
Yes. 1, 2,
3. We had agreement with Wikipedia, so we did digitalized most of our catalog, so it could be found on the internet. So we done a lot of work archiving. So we solved the problem of archiving. We solved the problems of archiving pictures. So mainly now it's archiving work, but we had a lot of help with the museums and curators from the Museum of Contemporary Art, from the national museums. So they helped us in restoring pictures, in digitalizing, in understanding what is value in the art history, meaning because of the tradition. But you have to be aware that this is very centralized and very conservative institution. And yes, no, not the museum, our society. So it's this idea of assemblies and idea of discussing, it's totally new. And if you introduce to people maybe idea to discuss some topics, even if it's like if it's small working group. People in smaller working groups, we found out that they are very prepared to discuss for a few days some topic. But the main assembly, in a larger structure, it simply doesn't work.
But even here, they didn't.
Yes.
I mean, the main discussions were in smaller working groups, and then bigger plan. It's not like the same.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying.
I wanted to share the perspective of artists who looking for some association in order to be able to work. And actually the main goal is like make art and produce something. I read some theory that one day everything will be art, as much as art disciplines are opening. And then I watching and remembering when I live in Holland and I watching your presentation and I start to think maybe one day everything will be bureaucracy, but also people moving. So I don't know, I have to say I now have experience with ULUS, which is sometimes completely exploding, and with memories of Czech way of living, I would complain everything is in house, 4 times nobody come to meet for this plenary to be enough people. But then I also see this completely, like I imagine somewhere in Brussels, they love flip charts and they almost sadistically want that we use them, and like this bureaucratic imposement, everything. Kind of, I'm very jealous that you have everything so nicely organized in the files, and I'm also so scared of it, because that's how, like, because I think the same process how, for example, for me, scary European Union works, it's somehow really copied in the way how we are imposed to work and teach. And when I lived 3 months in Amsterdam, it was like that. The people were really pushing this on me, like, that's how you should work. And in that way, in ULUS, even that it might sound almost opposite of this very well organized structure.
We have like very organized files and shared drives.
In my point of view, maybe, yeah. Yeah. So I would maybe even choose that. Of course, I'm just member. And the director of ULUS asked me only one thing: if I have coffee if I have milk for coffee. That's how we. So I'm also standing aside, and somehow I get inside with artistic approach, with to try to do something. And I wanted to say, maybe even I don't know about all the, because whenever I come closer and instead of making art, I'm stuck in bureaucracy. It's like somebody said under my ass, the chair in fire. I start to be very nervous. But I feel this process that I don't, like bureaucracy is really inviting us and sucking in, and after 1 year, I also feel like I should join and make something in folders. I would rather prefer what happened to try to make this illegal cafe, or with Dara, we sometimes take from basement books and put them that the people can get them and see them. Like that's the way how I'm able to process it. But I still feel always, and it's not first conference, where somehow through searching for doing art, I end up in bureaucratic field. But I can most effectively act differently. Maybe that's answer why small groups work better and effective, and when it gets bigger, it's just bureaucratized. But maybe that's not the best tools, or they say it's how we should do it. I don't know. I will say last thing. Maybe this skupština would work if you get a nice Croatian island, and the ship is leaving in next 10 days. Because also for your meeting, it's very interesting for many people to come. They come from far away. It's a thrill. It's a cool. Also, it was cool to come here. I guess we need to buy island, or ULUS need to buy. That's.
Thank you. You want to intervene? Do you give your spot because you are next? Okay.
1 second. I want to make just one comparison, because when I think the ULUS was formed, it was similar to this, because it was before the Second World War, and the people really had political idea of assembly, and they created exhibitions. They didn't have this structure. Maybe nowadays you are much more bureaucratized, even you guys, you know, because we have to fundraise, we have to collect the money, we have to write reports or write data. It was different. Then after the Second World War, it became more structuralized, and it became more serious, like organization, much more bigger. So this is like the organizations actually changing, are changing through time. And their structures are changing. Yeah. Maybe they start from this, but when they become bigger, they become more.
That's a question for you. What kind of structure you need? You shouldn't take it for granted.
Wait,
That exists. But sorry, we shouldn't intervene. You want to just
make a clarification about what you said and about the archive. I think there needs to be like some kind of questioning the way we experience archive in AC, it's also very much a living archive, and we keep on going back to it. So it's not necessarily just, you shouldn't just read these archival impulses or efforts only through the lens of bureaucratization, even though there's something to it, so you cannot really escape, or we cannot escape. And also the horizontality or non-hierarchically, like it's something that we have been actively working against. So this is an active part of AC, because there's violent ways are very slippery, and they slip through the door very, very easily. And hierarchies as well, power as well, who gets to speak, who can occupy more space, how that is naturalized. So I think we have been in an ongoing process of really being attentive and mindful towards that, and it's really an unfinished process. So this is, I think it's also something very important to say, that there's no fixed form, and we keep each other accountable. And in the sessions you would often hear Marianna or Lucy, yeah, you have spoken too much, now that's it for you. So we have all these ways to work against it, even though it happens. It's not, we're not ideal. Just to say this, and then I agree with Marianna that the question, or I guess how we understand our presence here, is just maybe an invitation to think of what kind of organization you want. But that's all. Like all we can do is just share our tools, and then you can take it from there. Yes, but I hope that this works. Yes.
Can I just reply on this? I feel a bit shame because, sorry? Just direct, I wanted to reply before even about the bureaucracy, administration, and so, and I feel ashamed because here there are none of my peers from the this 2019 and 20, where we shared the same experience, because I think people who are here went from ULUS, got introduced in these processes later and have some a bit different experience of working together and putting these efforts. So of course we inherited this all the statutes that Dara was saying, which was very antique and limited and very based into the functions. But when we were preparing all these actions, and there was twice a week assemblies of 50, 60, I don't know, lots of people making the plan, just how to get to this assembly of 120 people and take these positions. Our agreement was not to get settled in our functions. So, not to understand this as a function, but let's continue working together. The first, and we immediately introduced, this was in the beginning of 2020, we introduced a new, because for changing the statutes, you needed the new assembly, to propose, lots of work to propose it, and this is very difficult to change. We are still struggling, and this was one of the principal ideas, to change these statutes, as a basic code. But we introduced, I don't know, some protocols, which are the rules, common rules for building this horizontality and horizontal process. So the first thing was the general meeting of all sections, where we introduced all of the people and said, okay, let's now make proposals of what should be done. And then from the membership, the members gave initiatives for forming the working group. So we make a protocol for coordinating the working groups and communication, and this very, and started with these monthly meetings with all of the active members from the, these working groups, how this booklet also came, this book of the working conditions of artists, where there was, I don't know, 5, 6 working groups and like over 30 people of ULUS and external, you know, like working during, it's okay, then later came the project and so on, but like it just came as a pure, you know, like dedication and coordination. And also it has, we have to say that there the pandemic started, and this enabled like prevented us from having these open assemblies and meetings. And then also, like, there was a lot of discontent with the new exhibition program, so it brought lots of rage from part of the members who were excluded, felt themselves excluded, so there was ongoing struggles, like, with this part of memberships, and started internal discussions between us in the organization, and then the working groups dissolved because of the some of the working groups, because they made lots of documents, proposals, and started negotiation with the public institutions, and they just went to, like, bumped on a wall, like, and they just got frustrated. And there was lots of obstacles, how to say it, and then some new people came also in this management board who didn't understood this initial ideas and prevented actually this like delegating power, delegating tasks and responsibilities to the membership. So like we somehow got into this just voting system and following these rules, and then this became like really what Victor says, like a bureaucracy and administration, just like a burden. But this was like far from you know, initial idea. We, you know.
Cut. We start again. You first. I give the floor to you.
Thanks. So if I first have a comment that everything I've heard, like all the comments, questions, replies, additions were really useful to me, because we are all in different processes of change, and this is really hard. So it's useful to hear experiences from different organizations. And I'm still coming to an understanding what a collective process is. So I just wanted to outline like this notion of sociocracy. I just found it recently and realized that some of the groups that I've been working within were using these kinds of principles, so not democratic principle, but sociocratic principles, where the participation of everyone is actually key, but not the participation of everyone in all of the activities. As Victor mentioned, for example, for artists, it can be really taxing and exhausting to participate in administration or project applications or reporting. So I think it's key that we all find different ways of working with each other, so that we can include everyone in all processes, but not at the same time in all processes. So it's similar, like when you use digital, what we've seen during COVID, like when you have a physical meeting, but then you have someone joining online, they're in a kind of lesser position to intervene in the conversation. So it was, for example, proposed that every online participant has a representative, a physical representative in the physical space. So yeah, in this way we can kind of represent others' ideas and processes in different levels. So sociocracy, I'll just read the definition just so we have it in documentation. So sociocracy combines consent decision-making, a decentralized system of authority, and intentional processes to improve our decisions and processes over time into a governance system that supports effective and efficient process while increasing connection, listening, and co-creation among members. So I think it applies to most of the things and methods that we we heard here today. So now I come to my questions. I have only 2 questions now, but we can answer one or like however you feel like. I wanted to ask because okay, some organizations or cooperatives have this opportunity to have finances to travel physically, but some do not or do not yet have these opportunities. And I just wanted to ask, did you have this stage in AC? Because you mentioned all of the decisions are made in the physical assemblies. I wanted to ask, did you abandon like online assemblies, or you never had them, and what's your experience with them? And I'm just gonna mention a tool that I use with different initiatives. I do not use them extensively yet, but because there was not I didn't participate in multinational initiatives yet, but I participate in like local ones, national ones, and we still meet because our country is really small. It's really cheap to meet. But for some stuff, I realized that digital participation is really important, and having in mind that not everyone will read every document and click every link and respond to every form or whatever, but you need to kind of dose it, microdose the administration in the online participation. And a tool that I found useful is Lumio. It's Lumio, LOOMIO.org. It's a New Zealand-based cooperative that's focused on this digital sociocracy via online participation. So it's really useful for Lumio. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, maybe. Yeah, I think it's lumio.org. Sorry, lumio.com. Yeah, it's not .org. Because it's a cooperative, it's a company. So, yeah. Lumio.com. Okay. So it's really also cheap. They have a lifetime license for non-profits and volunteer organizations. So it's really like, it's proven useful. It's similar. I think it's quite similar to what you described in the physical assemblies, where people can also object to a proposal and then you discuss it. You never implement something that somebody had an argumented objection to. I think that's really important for these collective things. So yeah, my question is, did you use and abandon digital tools for decision making in AC, or you never had them, and what's your experience on that? And the second one is tied to the idea of commons and commoning. I have to be sincere, I'm super frustrated by Croatian institutions because they don't promote this idea of the cultural commons. They do, but periodically in particular events, instead of supporting this idea that everything that we create with this, if we create our program with public money and it's meant to be available to the community, that the resources are also available to the community. If you use copyright, they are there, maybe you change your website and they disappear if you didn't archive them somewhere like where it's accessible. But if you publish them with a commons license, then they are technically there forever, because other organizations will be citing them, reusing them, redoing them, and basically not have to build everything from the bottom up every time. And I see this as like basic acceleration, a basic acceleration technique for all the organizations. So are you using Creative Commons inside of AC, or like how do you perceive the commons, and do you have some experience with like national level policies on this, regarding this? Because I know, for example, in Germany there has been like a huge action, like for example, they say there's a slogan, public money public code. So if you use public money to create software, it needs to be public. It needs to be open source software. Though I want to make this, like, implement this into art. So if you fund the art with the public monies, at least some part of the process should be available, and I see it is available in the network at least, and then it probably overflows into local communities. So yeah, that's my 2 questions. Thanks.
And the questions are for us. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I wish you asked questions of each other, but okay.
So very, very fast. The digital tool participation, I mean, we have all the time digital, all of our, like, more daily or week-to-week meetings, working group meetings, small plenaries are all happening online. And for the assembly, we mostly do it presence-based, but it's not that there's no participation, as I explained, like before, previous to the assembly, there's a whole working group being organized, and there's an understanding that people that are joining these working groups are also communicating the agenda to their own organizations and coming back with input, with feedback, etc. And there's also a bigger mechanism of participation, which is the plenaries before assembly, where everyone is invited to join, say organizations that may not have been active in these working groups are also consulted. And I guess when Marianna also said, like, decisions are made in assembly, it's also, like, you also need to understand that it's not that it's fixed decisions. So for instance, now in the context of assembly, there was greater, like, an understanding that solidarity needed to come to the center of our practice, like needed to have more space, and we decided to come up with a new formation, which is AC School, and this new formation kind of was agreed on assembly, but the form or the specifics of it weren't. So as a result, like following up with the assembly, there continued conversations about what AC School should be.
Mandate. I remember the word that I want to say. So there was given a mandate for a working group to form and work on it.
Yes. Yes. So then there continues. We have been meeting every 2 weeks now for AC School, and everyone is welcome to participate and to come and join these meetings. There's a smaller working group, but then there are bigger presentation moments where we share. So everything takes kind of hybrid form, but it also depends how. But really, we make sure that there's room for everyone to be around because we are located all over the world. Then for the open source, I mean, we are not necessarily developing things that need to, like, the tools we're coming up with are not like out there, like in a creative license. I mean, we share. This is our way of commoning. We meet with groups often, like we are in touch with collectives, we are in touch with organizations, and we just share. Oftentimes we also send documents, we send materials, study materials, we share all of these brochures, etc. And it's more like a study, I would say, like under commoning and study collective mode of way of commoning, where we introduce the materials and we take the time to be in conversation, and as we're doing now. So this is the way. But there's also several organizations within AC that are interested in this kind of like software and are also working. So we can also just, blockchain. So we can introduce you, like we can share the references with you if you want. Yes.
And Casco itself, for example, this publication that is a collective work of many is always trying to share the tools that is creating. So there is publication, but this is also online, open for use to everyone, and is also technically also creative. Like we have made it like a shareable resource, among other things that we produce. Yes, this looks like a textbook or a manual, but actually it's not. You will see what I mean when you read it. And then for the transition from physical to online in terms of assembling, there was always consideration in the budget that there is money put aside for everyone to technically join. Only if it's impossible for them to join. They don't join. So there is money, there is a budget for everyone to join. It's, I mean, one representative, maximum 2 from each organization for the physical assemblies, but we have the disruption of COVID, where everything is going online to move forward. Especially at that moment, we had to also decide how the network would move forward from the previous structure. So we held decision making also online because we couldn't meet. So now we are in a hybrid mode where we are using the physical assembly, but we have also been using smaller assemblies, digital, online throughout the year. But the most important thing is that the participation and the micro-dosing of information and updates happens in preparation for assembly. So there is no one is surprised with what is brought to the assembly because they have been working on it to prepare it to come to the assembly and be discussed further and worked out.
We often organize homework previous to assembly, and I think we're also quite flexible. So if there's an organization that cannot come for any given reason, like we're always open to modifying modes, no? So if
no, that's it. So. Yeah, sure. This is, we were talking about it again in the break. So basically, this is a platform that was created in the context of Documenta by the organizers of the exhibition. And along with all the artists that were preparing for Documenta over 3 years of digital online meetings during COVID, etc. Not 3, 2 years. And they basically set up an infrastructure where they were hoping to use Documenta as a resource and as an opportunity to build an infrastructure to continue working together. So not to be just a one-time thing. We go to Germany, we show our exhibition for 100 days and it's over. But how to use this opportunity to further build tools to be in relation and to continue working together and be in exchange. So they set up this platform that has different functions. It has a whole chat, so it can kind of, it's an alternative to all the WhatsApp, all the social media. And it's also very easy to use on your phone. So they were aware of that. Then it has a communication channel. No, it's okay. Communication channel where they could have their own, let's say, news and information broadcasted in parallel or in complement to the official, let's say, German exhibition website. There is like the books and the films that we were watching the film yesterday from the Filmothek that all the artists participating in the exhibition have uploaded their work there. And there is the cloud that is used mostly by the press, so people are they have printing project during Documenta, but it continues, and how they can free up more resources to keep printing their work and other materials. What else is there? TV was also broadcasting channel, especially active during Documenta, during the 100 days. But it's also interesting because it's the members of this platform are the people that participated in Documenta, so you have like hundreds of people there. But now we are in the process of figuring out how to continue because the infrastructure is there. It's a huge server, so it's again like a tool, like Arts Collaborative has the legal entity and the bank account. This is another type of tool where it's more like platform making and resource sharing. now it's becoming a consideration because first they basically invested the money they had for organizing into building the platform. So there was like a sufficient amount of money to be invested there because of the exhibition. And now they are trying to find ways to make it more sustainable in a sense that they don't pay server fees, or like the server is now hosted with some French artists. Like, so now they're trying to figure out, are we becoming like bureaucracy? Or
This is not it. We are now, because it was supported through the funds coming from Documenta, and now we are currently talking about how to continue after Documenta, and this requires building also an economy to it, and this is in the process, and we're thinking of a membership mechanism because there's a lot of users and a lot of working groups, different working groups, so it's really also decentralized. You have many people using it in many different ways, so now there's the question about governance of the platform, and also membership, so how can we sustain, and we're also talking about how our different organizations can also migrate, so instead of using just, I don't know, Dropbox or all of these programs software, I don't know, that it's also tied to not questionable companies, so we're also now thinking how to move or migrate.
Support to use this resource that is a bit more open source, or
yes, but then again,
controlled by the members. Or
yeah, but then again, it's also very specific, like case-to-case study, because Casco, we are an institution with public funding, but then you also have smaller collectives that may not be the same. So as everything within AC and Lumung, we really need to do like case by case. Yes.
I just want to share a resource that we realized recently that is much better. So, for example, there is this project Nextcloud, which you can have on your own server. Yeah, and it's really much more affordable than, for example, paying for like a lot of storage on Dropbox or Google or other stuff. And you can also, as an organization, you can get it on a managed server, which is really then secure. If it bugs out, you have some support, and it's really not so expensive. It's a few euros per month. Yeah, so.
Dogs, and we have
sleepy, hungry.
yes. I don't know if there's. You want to say anything? We have some time left.
There's a microphone.
There you have microphone.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I don't know, we were talking earlier, maybe I don't know how to describe it, but it's a bit difficult to compare our structures in Croatia and Serbia compared to Netherlands. But maybe Dina can help me out. But we were talking earlier during breakfast about this. We gave an example how it. Example of a problem we had, I mean, that Croatian Association of Artists had. I'm not a member, but Dina is, but I'm also familiar with the structure, and I collaborated with them a lot. So we were talking about different types of problems that occurred, and and then I said, like, maybe we can give a positive example of how the members of the association handled this situation where there was a Dina, can you help me out? I wanted to say this. I wanted to give this example of Dubrovnik and how it all came out, but what were the main problems, maybe, and this is maybe a good example of. Trying to illustrate how our organization, Association of Artists, functions, and what are the problems and what are the positive sides of it. So I don't know. But Dina was there, so she can maybe explain it in detail.
Okay, so I'm not gonna start from the beginning because it's like a story that's about 160 years old, literally. But we have a lot of identity issues, in my opinion, in our artist organizations, in professional artist organizations, and these identity issues kind of overflow the members and the work of the organizations. And at one point, just recently, we have management in different organizations who sees, like, whose goals may not overlap with the members' goals. The members' goals are to have their art developed, to have it forwarded, to have collaborations, to travel, to work within art, while the management sees this art and acknowledges it, but it really focuses on economic forwarding of the association. So not every association, but some of them. So at one point, the current management of one of our biggest artist associations sued another artist association in a completely other part of Croatia for their own real estate, so for the building that they were working in, because of this identity problem of having a central artist organization in place, like 30 years ago, and it dissolved, and now it's a question who is the nasljednik, who is the successor of this collaboration. And instead of interpreting it in a way that all of the artist organizations are the successors of this alliance that was in place, our management, without asking and consulting its members, decided that they were the only successors and everyone else was secondary or even tertiary to this question. And they decided to sue this organization in Dubrovnik and said, like, this building in Dubrovnik that you're working in for the last 60, 70 years, this belongs to us, and we will, when we acquire this building through, like, suing you through legal means, and they will not, and they could not earlier. This is not the first time that this was has been tried. They tried to do it. Then we will assist you in programming, in organizing your events. And these people in Dubrovnik, of course, they don't need assistance. They've been running this association and the building very successfully. They actually managed to become the sole owners of the building in the past few years. Like, this is extremely, insanely hard to become an owner of a real estate, even if it's yours. We have such paperwork that you can own a building but still not be the owner on paper. This is, like, really normal in Croatia, but they managed to become owners on paper. And then our association, our management says, okay, we're gonna sue you because it's ours, which is, like, really out of any, like, sane discourse. And at this process, when we found out that as members we weren't consulted for this, like, super important question, it's not just economic, it's a solidarity question, it's also a decentralization question, where even if it was ownership or, like, property of the Zagreb-based organization, maybe the assembly of the artists and members would say, no, we don't want to take it from them because they are doing a good job and they need this. It's a basic infrastructure resource, having a building in to develop your practice. And when we found out, until the moment that they actually had an assembly where we could vote for this, it was about, I think, 2 years past. They were evading this question to have this assembly. So I think it's a really good example for both bad and good practice, because like, having like a management that is so out of line with their members is really problematic. And the discussions on this were really hard because they were taking it personally, and we really tried to make it non-personal, even though if it is, you know, that, like, they say, like, as management, our responsibility is to take care of our property. And I think this is like bad logic. This is really bad logic. Like if you would analyze it, like it doesn't really make sense because it's not your property, so you can't sue someone for it. So yeah, we managed to mobilize the members and to inform them, because there was also a lot of disinformation. For example, they would send out papers which would state, this is our property and we have to continue suing for it. And for example, they were not transparent about where the funds for the legal processes are coming from. We had a panel on this, and I was like successfully, like, successive. Okay, I was asking questions like, okay, who is paying for this, you know, this law, like this process? And we're like, our association. Okay, but how did you get, like, with which money are you paying for? Because programmatic funds and memberships are not necessarily, like, you can't use them for legal processes. And they would not answer the questions. Like, you literally face them with a question and they only say, like, we found a legal way to pay for it. After they said we made a compensation with the lawyers, which is really, like, non-transparent. So we actually managed to communicate the situation with a lot of members, and of course everyone was free to vote at their will and at their conscience. And it was not such a close call. Like the assembly was one of the biggest ones ever, I think, in the history. I think around 150 people, and normally it's maybe 30 people, which that's an almost exact amount that you need, minimum amount of people that you need to have for to have an assembly in our association. Or 30 or 50, but it I don't know the exact number. This is also kept in secret. This is really, like, it's insane for me that I don't know. Yeah, because having a lot of members in your association is a display of power. And our association was also advocating against their better judgment to be the only representative artist association for visual arts in Croatia. They were literally advocating this in the process of forming the new law for artists. And of course, all the other associations said that they don't agree with this, and it would only bring further centralization, and everybody would want to be a member of this organization because they're representative. They only provide, would be the only who provide tax deductions for artists' fees, you know, so that's like a huge thing. So it's supposed to be like a few thousand people, but there's a lot of people who passed away on the list who are not members anymore. And our members were asking for lists of members, or at least a number, they didn't get it. So we have this like barrier of administration between the members. And so when I say, like, we always need to think, like, what do artists and what do our members, what do our colleagues need? Like, do they need transparency? Maybe tomorrow they'll need, like, more projects. The day after that they'll need less projects. And we need to... Yeah, but this is so tricky. Like, the tax deduction also reduces your pension fund. So it's like a really...
very different situation in Croatian and Serbian association, the professional association, in the way that organized. So, like in Croatia, there is the one central one in Zagreb, and then more regional associations all around the country. And also, for example, those like the visual artists associations, we have only two really representative, is the Serbian and Vojvodinian, the province where Milica is from. And those two associations have this like representative status. And we are also entitled to, we have some jobs delegated by the government, and this is the main source of the funds actually that covers some salaries of the employed. like for the secretary, accountant, and the technicians, because for the 2 exhibition spaces. But we have in Croatia, this is completely another organization for that takes care evidence of the independent art. Yes, that gives this professional status of independent artist. So our association joins more functions in one. It also provides a service, makes exhibitions, and advocates and provides this like professional status. So it's like already lots of jobs that and also this is very interesting about the number of members, because it was really like a taboo, and it was kept in a secret. And all like communication was not functioning actually towards the membership, and this was one of the first things like to do, right? Like really to clear out like the number of membership and make more calls. I mean, one of the important tasks to like really get in contact and build these channels of communication also with Corona. And just now we are clearing out and can say, yes, at the moment we have like a exact number of active members. It's just 1,048, for example. I don't know now, like next month, and we take care of this. It was always playing with the numbers to be, you know, like pretend to be more important, you know, like, and actually there was like we got only. When we came, there was only like maybe 350 like emails of the members. Like, so yeah, I don't know, like what.
Yes, please. In general,
and also
the have not been talking. This is your chance. It's the last half an hour. Tiana as well. Please.
Okay, so I wanted to go back and also maybe give two other examples of organizations from Croatia that join collect artist associations and NGO like Udruge. Yes, civil society. Yes, under one roof. So there's this. One called Operacija Grad. Yes, and also Pogon Jedinstva, but it's like a physical place where Operacija Grad is the main organization that obuhvaća. I'm so sorry, my brain stopped working. Gathers these organizations, and it's a specific model of city and civil partnership. So it's half run by city and half run by civil society organizations, and it's been funded in Dina. It was also a member. Kad je osnovano? Oh, okay, sorry. I think it was founded in 2008 or 2009, and there's this regional. It's the regional one. I mean, not the same, but similar ways of functioning, called Cooperativa, and it's with a K, and it's also like. Platform network of different organizations from the region, so Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia.
Network of the networks.
Network of the networks, yes, and they all like function in a way that they apply to different funds and European and local and regional and European funds. So maybe it's interesting for you to check it out sometimes. Klapčer, yes, Klapčer, and Kultura Nova. Yes, this is the.
It's really Kultura is really active and really the closest to what we were talking about. Oh, sorry. The Culture Network is maybe the closest, has processes that are maybe the closest to everything we discussed today, like to the good examples. And this was my like first experience of working within a network of organizations where all the member organizations have options to vote. Okay, except artist organizations who are like they're like additional members and they don't have voting privileges because they are not associations per se per our laws. But okay, this is more of a symbolic obstacle. Like I always, like I run an artist organization. Of course, they will listen to me if I really object to something, like if there is an issue. But formally we cannot vote, and they like pull in money from different sources, and then the assembly, when we meet and we listen to project proposals, which are really kind of simplified, and they're not so intense to prepare, but you have to have a type of a presentation and explain like why do you want to do this collaborative project in different parts of Croatia, and preferably not in the capital cities and the centers. So the smaller the place and the smaller the organization who is doing it, the larger the support is somehow. And everyone then votes. We have different categories and a pool of votes, like kind of on grades, like that you can allocate to each project, and then like they get listed, and the best, the most supported projects get this funding. And what is also interesting is that there is always an A and a B budget. So the A budget is bigger support for less organizations, and the B budget is a bit smaller support for more organizations. And then the assembly is asked to decide on this after we ask all the organizations, do they agree with these two proposals? Like, are they both doable for your project? And after they accept, or maybe they don't accept, some of them are then decide to exclude themselves, or maybe the assembly will then vote for the A, but it never happens since I'm there. So we always vote that more projects get a bit smaller support, because if you reallocate like 10 budgets to 11, it's not gonna be like such a huge difference. And we also have like physical assemblies, and we are experimenting with different formats of meeting each other and providing support to each other. So yeah, I think my problem is with the Croatian NGOs is that this was my first experience, and then my expectations were really gigantic, like enormous. And if I don't have such a good experience with other networks or organizations, then I get a bit frustrated, because I've seen that you can do this. I've seen that you can have like an online assembly. You know, they all have it. Like all the networks also that Tena mentioned, in crisis, their capacity to have digital communication is there. It's not primary. It's not it's not insisted upon when there's a physical opportunity to meet. And of course people like this, like to meet in real life, but they have the capacity. And then I work with different organizations, with these professional artist organizations, and they say, okay, no, but we can't have an online assembly, we can't vote online. What's the budget for this? You need to, if you propose this online assembly, you need to budget it. And I'm like, but the budget is zero. It's literally zero. You just make a Google form, and like people can vote if you send it to their emails. So there's a lot of like non-obstacles stopping participation of artists in Croatia. And to participate in this like developed networks, you need to run your own organization. So it's still like more administration to get to the humane part and to the communicative part. Sorry if I extended too much.
Just to add, because it's not very comparable, you know, like in Serbia we also have on this level independent cultural scene, which is the network, also part of Cooperativa, this big regional network, which is an association that gathers now over 100 small NGOs from Serbia. But this is something that was initiated in 80s and it was born within like some kind of struggle for a space for organization, and they introduced really good system of taking care of all the, building this solidarity and horizontal, they're all changeable, or I don't know, lots of us are also involved there through our small associations and so on. And what I just forgot to say, before, when Dina was saying about this as a professional association, on the contrary of our association, like Professional Artists, Visual Artists Association, the Croatian one is has a professional management. It means that there is the director and people who are governing on the salary, and we are we have this structure where it's artist run. Really, it's not. We don't have professional management. Yeah, but
there is just one person, which is like a general director or something like that in Croatia,
yeah.
And also steering committee who's our
and
artist.
also person responsible on the project.
Non-paid.
They are artists, but they are paid.
No.
They are there's a position of director, manager. I don't know,
No, just one paid position. I asked them.
Yes. As artists.
Yes. No. Maybe
Buntek, Tomislav. I don't know.
Okay, so in the Hadelu, which is similar to ULUS, maybe more similar than Hazesu. In Hadelu, only the director is, and the curators and the administration and the bookkeeping are paid jobs, but the board of artists, board of members, is a non-paid position. But they are also not excluded from being programmed in the events, so they participate. The board members also participate in events sometimes, and they get kind of included in the program. Yeah, they get I think with in my opinion, this is very problematic. If you are a board member and you make decisions about the program or something, you should exclude yourself for this short period of time, a year, 2 years, not to program your own events. So, yeah, but. Yeah, somehow, but not really. Yeah, not really. And they have curators, of course, curatorial boards for particular programs, but this is a really small ecosystem. It's not like that everyone is unaware of what everyone else is doing. We always have these discussions on conflict of interests, and because Croatia is so small, it's really impossible to get a jury that is professional in their area, but they're also not a part of the community. So this is an ongoing discussion. But yeah, but in the Hazesu organization, we also have managers. We have a lawyer. These are all paid positions, permanent jobs. There's also the board of artists who are elected to the main board of artists elected to be in this board is a paid position. It's also not transparent, how much are they paid. I could probably ask, but I think this is something that needs to be communicated with the members. So it's the board is paid in Hazesu. Yeah, and we have a manager and a lawyer, and it's an association. No, it's a regular association, but it has the right to make public decisions because it manages and governs the process of gaining rights to your pension and health fund as a professor. Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. There are different ones. So they have like we have like 7. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, like, if you have this option, if you can really design the structure of your organization, like, I would never give the manager or the director exclusive rights to make decisions, because we have a lot of trouble with this right now. You know, we have this administration body in our association, which is completely emancipated from the assembly and from its members, and this is creating. Is their only choice. Only choice. There's no alternative. The alternative is like to, then you have, you can't work like that, because you're not competitive.
The representative association
Yeah.
gets certain privileges from the state to distribute certain goods. If it's, so, for instance, ULUS gets money from the states to, and money for employees and certain, to, okay.
Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt each other. Don't interrupt each other. Please finish your. Yes.
To give the status of the independent artist, which people get the what we talked before, the social, yeah. So the fact that it's not like representative only symbolically, it has a real meaning in economic and functional dimensions. I don't know exactly in Croatia.
I just wanted to give like a really plastic example, and that is, like, if I am a member of these associations, when I charge my artist fee, it will be €1,000, for example, if it's 1,000, and it's never 1,000, it's mostly like 100 or 50, but I just like to round it up, it's 1,000. If I'm not a member of this association, my artist fee is €1,250. So for, like, if I have my artist honorarium, it's more expensive for my employer than if I'm not a member. And it's like I do not gain anything from being more less less competitive in this market, because otherwise, like, if I'm a member, this difference is paid for me by the state, so I can continue being an artist, and this is later returned through my pension fund.
And these are all leftovers from Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Basically, the state outsourced the access to public insurance, pension, etc., to different associations to distribute it. Yeah. You want to talk? Fine.
Maybe I will take a step back. I'm sorry for that. What's your experience with non-institutional donors and funds? Are they available to you? Do you make contacts? Do you have strategy eventually? Anything? I see that you're only talking about grants and funds that you would that are allocated from some governmental programs or ministries, or any experience with non-institutional donors. Like let's say, for instance, humanitarian organizations. When we want to be truly fucking independent, we try not to have any connections with any governing body, so we could be free to do our things in field, let's say.
Yes.
So is it any is it a relevant question
But
for your kind of organization, or?
But we're based in the Netherlands, where there is still to the
So I don't know. I kind of gather your experience, but not in total.
So some organizations, I will speak about Croatia, but it's probably quite similar in all of the Balkans. So some organizations are member organizations, and sometimes they can fund some base of their work by memberships, but this is mostly like maybe up to €50 per year, and this is often not an adequate amount, and it's not a fixed stable income, because people's situations change, they stop paying in memberships and similar. Some organizations, like artist organizations, are not member organizations. Like my organization has 4 members, like we can't really fund ourselves that way. And if we speak about private donors, like there are donations from physical persons, and these are like mostly organized for humanitarian events or emergency causes, and nobody would pay my organization, for example, to make art. I have a donation page on my website and nobody has paid in. Like I was the only one. Yeah, I was like the only one paying in donations into my organizations for the like first 2 or 3 years, so that we can actually work and pay. And if we're talking about companies and the private sector, it's really destimulated in Croatia, in a sense that if a private company gives you material or labor, they have to pay taxes to it as if they sold it. No, but if they have cuts, if they give you money, but only for, I think, 0.5% or something of their tax deductible income. So it's really not stimulated. Yeah, and we are talking a lot about this. We have a new law about artists upcoming, and instead that the state would solve this issue and they change this like tax deduction laws, they will keep us hostage so that we participate in this law for artists and that we comply with everything that is said. I think it is, yeah. Yeah, I think it is, but I don't know who would lobby. Like, artists are not... It's a few thousand active people with not a lot of resources and not a lot of income, so, like, not a lot of power. The only pressure that we managed to make was via public, where the public eye, like if you would embarrass a politician and they would have to, yeah, shaming. So that worked, that seemed to work, but that's the only thing. Like we tried to advocate. Yeah. We had, just to give an example, our professional artists' pension funds have been stuck for 13 years at the coefficient and the index of 0.8. That's the same index for calculating your pension fund if you work in a bakery or if you're like a mostly highly educated artist. And I want to say that I don't care about like these levels. I also work with artists who are not educated at all and they make amazing art, but this index was forgotten, and it was the only index only for professional artists that stayed in the anti-recession level from 2008 or 9.
What about the bakers? Why aren't they having lobbying?
Yeah, I don't know. This is another story. I also have internal... I know a lot about that area also, but maybe this is not a place to share it. They have their own like troubles and privileges. Yeah, so our professional artist associations weren't doing anything. 13 years. They would be sending like letters sometimes. Like every 2 years they send a letter to the Ministry of Finance and they don't answer and nobody cared. And then we decided, okay, it's enough. Yeah. And then we decided, like, okay, it's really enough. We had enough, and of this board who is paid and they don't do anything, and we just self-organized. We made petitions, we made a protest, we contacted everyone that we know in the government, in the national government, local government. Everybody contacted everyone, like everyone signed the petition, like everyone's families, everyone signed it. Like when people would ask us, like, why are you protesting? We said that's because our pension funds, as after the whole life that we worked as professional artists, will be €230. And then the media got interested because it was like a good time and they didn't have anything more interesting or controversial to report on, and they started like asking the government, and they like, I think some politicians made like a lapse in judgment in front of the cameras, and they admitted that this was unfair and unjust that the artists have this. Yeah, and then what happened is that the left government proposed changes in laws that would allow for bigger pension funds, but then the our mostly right government rejected this. Yeah, of course they rejected, and later they proposed a change, a similar, yeah, but it resulted in our, yeah. Yeah, but we weren't like, we could only influence our emotions and our engagement and our focus and the will to volunteer to make this work. And of course we didn't organize anything like in a best way. Like the protest was also maybe short, it wasn't, the dramaturgy of the protest was not so good, but we went ahead and like we weren't thinking about ourselves. Like I really don't, like my status is like these few years, I only had this status for a few years and it's not gonna influence my pension a lot, but there's been people who just went into their pensions and half of their working age is this like index, which is like insanely small. It's 0.8 and the employed artists have 1.8. So it's like more than a double. And now we have 1.2. This is from 2009.
That's the increase.
They just returned it to before the anti-recession measure.
So it's not exactly success.
So yeah, sorry, I hope I answered with the private donations and like the private sector. It's really destimulated. Unfortunately, we also are trying to work on this because some artists want to be in the market, like they want to be in contact with philanthropists, collection, like collectionarima and galleries, but it's really insanely hard and inefficient.
I have shortly something.
Great.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. so I'm just going outside the topics at the moment because there is some ideas coming up during the break, and the idea is to create a WhatsApp group to add all the contacts of ours, if you don't mind, so we can share photos that we took these days, or maybe some links to interesting websites, open calls, invitations of what's going on in Belgrade and other cities as well. Or maybe we can do email if it's easier or more convenient. So there is an initiative WhatsApp group as well, so we can yeah, and I'm very slow with using telephone, so any help with adding all the numbers will be great. And what can I say? 1, 2, 3.
I think it is important to emphasize that the status of independent art in Serbia doesn't depend on membership. Membership is voluntary, not obligatory. So it is at the first place the question of status. You know, you are a big artist if you are a member of ULUS. Not the that's not the economic question. You can it is allowed not to be a member of ULUS, but still to get the service of ULUS, and that's the I think that's the quite democratic.
It's actually not the service of ULUS, it's the service of the state or the city of Belgrade that going through ULUS, yes. You want to sum up?
I feel the energy is going down.
You want to say a few last words?
I mean, we will be here, we will be together all day, but thank you for having us. Thank you for having us, and thank you for trying to communicate in English for us, although you could just speak, most of you, your mother tongue to each other and understand each other. And thank you for being open to kind of engage with what we were sharing. And also, I wish there was more time for this to happen, to keep exchanging with each other. Maybe we can, throughout the day, continue informally or not record it.
Yeah, not just say that it has also been important to hear you these last days. We've learned also a lot about the context and the ways in which you have been organizing here. So also thank you for that.
Yeah.